Charles Cullen. Between 1988 and 2003, Charles Cullen, a nurse working in hospitals across New Jersey and Pennsylvania, murdered as many as 40 patients. He administered lethal doses of medications, mainly insulin and the heart drug digoxin, to patients who weren't prescribed them, causing their hearts to stop or putting them into fatal comas. Cullen's downfall came from his carelessness with hospital computer records. While working at Somerset Medical Center in New Jersey, he repeatedly accessed files of patients who weren't under his care and ordered unnecessary medications for them. The hospital's monitoring system detected these irregular activities, linking them to a rise in unexplained deaths. Suspicion grew after a patient died with unusually high levels of digoxin that hadn't been prescribed. In October 2003, the hospital alerted the police. When questioned, Cullen quickly confessed, admitting to killing between 30 and 40 patients. He claimed his actions were meant to end their suffering, though many of his victims weren't terminally ill. In April 2004, Cullen pleaded guilty to murdering 13 patients and attempting to kill 2 others. He received 11 consecutive life sentences and will remain in prison until the year 2403. Alexander Pichushkin. Between 1992 and 2006, Alexander Pichushkin murdered at least 49 people in Moscow, Russia. The 32-year-old became known as the chessboard killer because he claimed his goal was to kill 64 people, one for each square on a chessboard. Pichushkin committed his first murder in 1992 at the age of 18, killing a classmate and dumping the body into a sewer in Bitsa Park. After that, he stopped for several years but began killing again in 1996 after Russia abolished the death penalty, which made him feel safe to continue. Most of his victims were elderly homeless people he encountered in Bitsa Park near his home. His biggest mistake happened in June 2006 when he murdered his co-worker Marina Moskalyova. Before meeting him, she had left a note for her son saying she was going out with Pichushkin and included his phone number. Even though Pichushkin knew about the note, he still carried out the murder, overconfident that he wouldn't be caught. However, her body was soon discovered, and police traced the evidence back to him through security footage. After his arrest, Pichushkin openly described his crimes and led investigators to the murder sites. In 2007, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Wayne Williams. Between 1979 and 1981, at least 28 black men were murdered in Atlanta, Georgia. Wayne Williams, a 23-year-old black man who worked in the music industry, was arrested and convicted for 2 of these murders, though investigators believed he was responsible for many more. Williams became a suspect on May 22, 1981, when police staking out a bridge heard a splash in the river below. Moments later, Williams's car was the first to cross the bridge. When officers stopped him, he gave a false story about meeting a singer named Cheryl Johnson, a person who didn't exist. 2 days later, the body of 27-year-old Nathaniel Cater was found in the river, and police suspected Williams had thrown him from the bridge that night. A key piece of evidence against him was the discovery of carpet fibers on several victims that matched a rare carpet found in Williams' home. On June 21, 1981, Williams was arrested for the murders of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. He was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Robert Berdella. Between 1984 and 1987, Robert Berdella kidnapped, tortured, and murdered at least 6 men in Kansas City, Missouri. The 39-year-old antique dealer kept detailed notes of his crimes, recording everything he did to his victims, who were often held captive for days or even weeks before being killed. Berdella lured men to his home on Charlotte Street by offering them a place to stay or secretly drugging their food or drinks. Once they were unconscious, he tied them to his bed and began torturing them, even taking photographs throughout the ordeal. His crimes came to light when his final victim, Christopher Bryson, managed to escape. On March 29, 1988, after being imprisoned for 4 days, Bryson used matches left nearby to burn through his ropes. Wearing only a dog collar, he leapt from a second-floor window and ran to a neighbor's house for help. When police searched Berdella's home, they uncovered horrifying evidence: his detailed torture logs, hundreds of victim photos, a human skull in a closet, a buried head in the backyard, and numerous ropes and torture tools scattered around. Berdella eventually confessed to all 6 murders and was sentenced to life in prison. He died of heart failure on October 8, 1992, at the age of 43. Bobby Joe Long. Between March and November 1984, Bobby Joe Long murdered at least 10 women in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. The 31-year-old disposed of his victims' bodies in isolated locations around the city. His fatal mistake came on November 3, 1984, when he abducted Lisa McVeigh. Long held her captive in his apartment for 26 hours, repeatedly assaulting her. Unlike his other victims, however, he decided to let her go. He blindfolded McVeigh, drove her near the spot where he had taken her, her and released her. During her captivity, McVeigh showed remarkable courage and intelligence. Believing she might not survive, she intentionally left her fingerprints throughout Long's bathroom, counted the steps to his apartment, noted the texture of his car, and memorized every detail she could while blindfolded. After being freed, McVeigh immediately went to the police, providing detailed information about Long's car, a red Dodge Magnum, and his apartment. Her description helped authorities track him down quickly. Long was arrested on November 16, 1984. Evidence tied him to multiple murders, and he later confessed to 8 killings and numerous assaults. He was convicted and sentenced to death. After 34 years on death row, Bobby Joe Long was executed on May 23, 2019. Maury Travis. Between 2000 and 2002, Maury Travis, a 36-year-old hotel waiter, murdered at least 12 women in the St. Louis area. His victims were mostly sex workers whom he lured to his home, where he had built a torture chamber in his basement and filmed his brutal crimes. Travis's killing spree might have continued if not for a critical mistake. After the St. Louis Post-Dispatch published an article about victim Teresa Wilson, Travis couldn't resist reaching out. He mailed an anonymous letter to the paper writing, "I'll tell you where many others are, and to prove I'm real, here are directions to number 17. Enclosed with the letter was a map pinpointing a body's location. Unbeknownst to Travis, the map was from Expedia.com, which logs user activity. The FBI contacted the site and traced the map's origin to an IP address belonging to Travis. When police searched his home in June 2002, they uncovered his basement torture room, news clippings about the murders, and videotapes of his victims' deaths. During interrogation, Travis further incriminated himself by asking to see the murdered girls, even though officers had never mentioned they were dead. DNA from a soda can he used also matched evidence from 2 victims. With overwhelming proof against him, Travis ended his own life in jail 3 days after his arrest. Henri Désiré Landru. Between 1915 and 1919, Henri Désiré Landru murdered at least 11 people in France. At 40 years old, he preyed on lonely widows during World War I by placing newspaper ads posing as a respectable widower seeking marriage. Landru would charm women who had some wealth, persuade them to sell their belongings, move in with him, and then kill them to steal their money. His downfall came from a seemingly small but revealing detail. Investigators noticed that whenever Landru traveled with his victims to his country home, he always purchased one-way tickets for the women and round-trip tickets for himself, indicating he knew they would never return. Although police couldn't locate complete bodies, they discovered bone fragments and teeth in his stove and garden. Combined with the ticket evidence, this was enough to connect him to the murders. On November 30th, 1921, Landru was convicted of 11 murders and was executed by guillotine on February 25th, 1922. LaMarquez Devin McWills. Between 2006 and 2009, LaMarquez Devin McWills terrorized the Acres Homes area of Houston, Texas, attacking and murdering several women. The 33-year-old targeted sex workers, assaulted them, and left their bodies in ditches and behind buildings. His biggest mistake occurred in August 2009 when he abducted a woman named Chelsea Brazier. After attacking her, McWills locked her in the trunk of his car. However, his car soon got stuck in the mud. He took Brazier out and told her to drive while he pushed. Once the car was free, Brazier sped off instead of returning and immediately called the police. Her escape directly led to McWills's arrest. When police took him into custody, they collected his DNA, which within 2 days was found to match evidence from multiple crime scenes in Acres Homes. Another key piece of evidence was a Scales of Justice tattoo on his arm, matching the description given by witnesses who had seen the killer. McWills was convicted of sexual assault and sentenced to life in prison. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Painted Motion for more videos like these.